Now that you've read chapter 6, you're ready to move on to the lesson. We're going to start by looking at direct instruction. It says, review levels of questions by matching each definition with the correct level of question. So our levels of questions are knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, evolution, and synthesis. Please go ahead and attempt on your own to match them with the correct definition. Okay, if you only have a pen and not a pencil, maybe don't draw the lines, maybe just put the letter next to the number so that way if you get it wrong, that's okay. You can just, once we go over it, you can make the correction. Go ahead and hit pause and try by yourself. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and look at the definitions for each term, excuse me. So knowledge, we know, is something that's factual. So I'm going to look over here and see if I see anything that says facts. There I see it says recall facts, terms, and basic concepts. That's exactly what a knowledge question is. So I'm going to draw a line from 1 to C, or I can write C next to number 1. Number 2, comprehension. Comprehension is making sure that we understand what we're reading. So I'm going to look for anything that talks about understanding. And look, right here, E says demonstrate understanding of facts and ideas. E is the correct definition for comprehension. So I'm going to go ahead and match it and write E next to 2. Next we have application. Application is when you apply the knowledge that you're learning to solve a problem. So I'm going to look and see if there's anything that says solve. I see F says solve problems to new situations. That is our answer or our definition of application. And I'm going to write F right here. Term 4 or level of question 4 is analysis. Analysis is when you have to really look closely and think about the different pieces of information. So if you look at A, it says examine. Oh, examine means to look closely and then break information into parts. So that's looking at different pieces. Excellent. That is definitely the definition. So I'm going to draw a line from analysis to A. And then I'm just going to write A over here so I know that's the correct answer. 5 is evaluation. Evaluation is when you have to make a choice or judge something or make an opinion, state an opinion, or defend your opinion. So I see that D says present and defend opinions by making judgments. That is the definition of evaluation. And I'll just write D next to it so I can remember. The last one, synthesis, says combine knowledge in a new way. And that is exactly what synthesis is. So I'm going to draw a line and I'm going to put B. Excellent. These are the definitions of our 6 different levels of question. Once you're done with that, you're ready to move on to guided practice. Guided practice. Read each question in the box below and determine the level of question it is. Then draw a tree map and place each question under the correct branch. When you're done, circle the best discussion questions. Okay, so I see that I'm doing 3 different things here. The first thing I'm going to do is read each question and determine the level of question it is. Then I'm going to draw a tree map. That's the second thing I'm doing. And place each question under the correct branch. And then when I'm done, I need to circle the best discussion questions, 3. So I need to make sure that I do all 3 of these tasks. Okay, so the first one, read each question and determine the level of question it is. So again, these are our levels of questions up here. Okay, so the first one, what conclusions can you draw about Bartolo based on his plan to get Salvador and Lupita across the border? What conclusions can you draw? So my hint is that word conclusion. So what type of question asks us to make conclusions? Okay, so when you're making a conclusion about something, you have to really examine the different pieces and use your own brain to come up with some information. Okay, so we have to look at the different pieces of Bartolo's plan, and we have to think about, what does that say about him, right? What kind of we can guess about Bartolo's character? This is an analysis question. So I'm just going to put next to it analysis. So I know to put it under the tree map as analysis in just a minute. Okay? Let's look at the second one. What outcomes can you predict about their second attempt to cross the border? So I see that word outcomes and predict. So I know that this means I need to combine knowledge, but in a new way, right? Because I'm going to combine knowledge from the book and then make a prediction about the outcomes. So this is actually going to be synthesis. So I'm going to put next to it synthesis. Okay. Next question. Can you think of another way they could pay Bartolo to help them? Can I think of another way? So when I'm thinking about another way, that sounds like solving a problem in a different way, right? So I'm trying to figure out how they could pay Bartolo. So I'm trying to solve this problem, but in a different way. So that, if we look at our definitions, is going to be application. So I'm going to write application next to it. Okay. Our next question. How would you compare the first plan to the second plan to cross the border? So anytime I'm comparing and contrasting, that is checking my understanding, which is a comprehension question. So if I'm going to show that I understand each plan by comparing it, I'm demonstrating my understanding, which is comprehension. Good. Our next question. Who do Lupita and Salvador run into at the market, and how do they know him? So if I'm saying who, I know that's going to be a fact, right? Because there can only be one answer, and I can point to it in the book. So if I look at my definitions, I know that recalling facts, there's the definition, is a knowledge question. So I'm going to go ahead and write knowledge. And the last question, can you justify Salvador and Lupita breaking the law to come to the United States? Okay, so making a justification is where we're evaluating, because we're deciding we're making a judgment, right? And we're deciding if it's okay, right? And we're proving that it's okay for them to break the law, and we have to prove why. Okay, so this is an evaluative question. So we're going to write evaluation. Okay, now that we know the types of question, the levels of question each question is, we're going to categorize them by putting them in a tree map. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is have our trunk, and this is going to be levels of questions. That's how we're categorizing things. Levels of questions. Okay, and then our branches are going to be the different levels of questions. I'm gonna go ahead and just pause for a second and fill in the levels of questions. It's kind of difficult to write it while I'm holding my iPad. So you can just keep following along, and in a minute all the levels of questions will be there. Presto! All the levels of questions that you need to write down. Here's all my branches. I have knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, evaluation, and synthesis. These are the 6 levels of questions. So now what we want to do is put each question under the correct level. So we've already identified the level here. So now you're just going to write the question. So for knowledge, I'm going to find knowledge. Who do Lupita and Salvador run into at the market, and how do they know him? I'm going to write the question, not the answer, we're going to do that next, down under my tree map. And just make sure that you leave enough room for your next one. You should be able to write it. I'm going to write the first one for you, and then you can complete the rest on your own. So, who do Lupita and Salvador run into at the market and how do they know him? Okay, so under each branch you're going to write the correct question that goes with the level of question. Go ahead and hit pause and complete comprehension, application, analysis, evaluation, and synthesis. All of your answers are right up here, so all we're going to do is move the question down here. Make sure you hit pause and do this now. If you attempted on your own, great job. Go ahead and check your answers with my answers and see if they're similar. If there was any that you struggled with, go ahead and look and see what I wrote, and you can use that to help you. Once you're done copying down or correcting your answers, go ahead and turn to the exit slip. For the exit slip, you're going to do this independently. So I'm not going to help you with this part, but that's okay. I know you can do it. I want you to match the following question stems to their level of question. So, for example, how would you use, what type of question is this asking? Okay, how would you use? So I'm thinking back to our lesson today, and I know that using things in a new way, this is going to be an application question. So you can go ahead and draw application to how would you use. Okay. The next 5 you're going to do on your own. Can you propose an alternative? What is the main idea of? Why do you think? Who was? And how would you justify? Please match each of these with the level of question they would be asking. Once you're done with this, you're ready to turn in your lesson and get ready to leave the class. Great job.